Hello and welcome to this special edition of Past Your Bedtime in collaboration with TwoCan Mentoring. My name's Bev. In this special series, we've focused largely on the mentoring process from the participants' angle, exploring the experience of TwoCan Mentoring, looking at both the journey and the outcomes for both mentor and mentee. Today's episode differs slightly insofar as it looks at mentoring as part of an overall learning and development strategy from a human resources perspective. Integrating a mentoring system can be challenging for some companies, especially if they lack the internal resources. Bringing in that resource from outside the organisation provides an opportunity to broaden the scope of skills and backgrounds in order to offer up different perspectives for the mentee to consider, as well as providing for conversations unencumbered by existing working relationships or company culture. Mentoring, as distinct from coaching and training, is very much a two-way street, allowing both parties to steer the learnings as the situation dictates. The TwoCan programme also provides for some structured learning, as well as an invaluable network of like-minded people looking to support, share and connect. A recurring theme in these interviews is just how effective the matching process is between the mentor and mentee. During onboarding, both mentors and mentees go through the same process, outlining their career journey, their goals and their reasons for joining the programme. Looking at the whole person ensures that not only are specific skills considered, but that personal values are surfaced, moving beyond matching simply based on job titles alone. Aligning characteristics, learning styles and behavioural dimensions, and making for a truly strong connection. I'm extremely grateful to my guests today, Elaine McGladdery and Stasha Napior-Kowska from the Agriculture and Horticulture Development Board, better known as AHDB. I'm grateful for their continued support and for sharing with me their thoughts. So thanks again, both of you, for your time. It probably would be useful to understand what both of you do. You're both at AHDB. Elaine, can you kick off and explain to me what your role is at AHDB and where it fits into this discussion?
Oh, okay. Yep. So I'm the Learning and Development Business Partner at AHDB. So that means I do everything sort of training wise. So that could be, well, this morning, for example, I've done something around induction. So meeting our new starters, which is always lovely. At the end of this week, I'm doing some management development, and then it's kind of everything in between, really. So we've got a bit of first aid training on this week, but we do all sorts of different types of development, including lots of e-learning and the sort of dreaded mandatory stuff that we have to do as well, so
Regulatory
folk
stuff.
to do all the regulatory stuff. Yeah. So it's really varied, and no 2 days are ever the same, I would say, in terms of sort of learning and development. And then where mentoring fits in with that, I think mentoring just offers just a different perspective. It's not about giving people information, it's about helping them discover things either about themselves or their role, or just sort of solve problems and giving people the space and time to think about things rather than just be doing. So it just gives an extra dimension, I think, to what we can offer people.
Lovely. And how long have you been at AHDB?
Oh, just coming up to 4 years. 4 years in August.
Okay. Does that make you seasoned or still a newbie?
It seems to, well, it depends who you talk to, because there'll be some people who have been here for about 20 years and, know everything. And then, yeah, we've also got lots of new folk as well. So kind of a bit in the middle, I would say.
Lovely. And Stasha, nice to see you again. Tell me about your role at AHDB.
Right. I've been at AHDB for 11 years. 11 years, July the 1st. So that's just come and gone. And my title is Senior Retail Development Manager. So in simple terms, what that basically means is that I work at the complete opposite end to the levy payers in AHDB. So whilst a lot of AHDB is quite rightly focused down at the farm, pre-farm, etc., I'm up at the other end working with the stakeholders. So just to put it in perspective, the reason why it's really important to have a retail team within AHDB is that when British farmers grow or produce something, where do they sell their stuff? This is the way I put it. And they've only got 3 outlets. And I'm not talking about things like farm shops or, whatever. I'm talking about the bulk of what is actually sold. So you've either got retail, which in essence means supermarkets, export, or food service. So if to just put into perspective how important the supermarket, the retailers are to AHDB or to levy payers in general, is more than 80% of red meat that's produced and more than 80% of liquid milk is sold through UK supermarkets. So you can imagine there are millions of people who shop. You and I, we all shop in supermarkets, don't we?
Yeah.
So that's really, really important. So that's where my role fits in. Historically, I've always worked for, we in AHDB, we call them processors, but in the retail world, they're called suppliers. So they process something that is then sold into the retailers, right? So I have a really good relationship with all of the processors because obviously they are manufacturers, suppliers selling into the different supermarkets. And I've always worked, ever since I finished my degree, I've always worked in the food industry. And before, I had a stint at Co-op before I came to HDB, so I went over to work in retail. But actually, I've always been working in the processor supplier base, either in marketing or in procurement or in developing new products or doing category management, always on the commercial side of the business, working directly. And at some point, I worked with all of the UK supermarkets as a supplier. And now in HDB, I have my own bespoke retailers. I took a few more minutes to explain that because it's quite easy for people to not be sure why there needs to be a retail facing element, because retailers are stakeholders. They give us access to literally millions of consumers. So it's really, really important that we have those relationships.
Fascinating. Thank you. So it's good for the pair of you to come onto this conversation today. So obviously we're looking at mentoring as distinct from training and coaching. The point you made there, Elaine, it's not about teaching or training a particular product or set of skills. It's a much more organic process, I suppose. Why did you choose, Elaine, to look at mentoring as part of the learning and development strategy at AHDB?
Well, I think it is because it does give people that wider experience, and it allows people to explore their issue or the topic that they want to have a look at. So it just gives it a bit of a wider, rather than sort of like, here's your set thing and there's your answer to that particular thing. It is that element of self discovery, I suppose. But I think the great thing about mentoring as well is it also does that. It's almost like that meta learning. So as well as exploring the thing that you want to explore, it's also it's an experience, isn't it? And I think people pick up those skills and then, learn to be a mentor and learn to ask really great, curious questions and learn around, how to really listen to folk as well. So those are fantastic skills that you can use in any walk of life. But exactly, yeah. So, okay, you get to have a look at the thing you wanted to have a look at, but also equally you get to do those bigger life skills as well. So I think it just opens up that element and that side of learning. But also we've got a lot of really knowledgeable, well qualified experts, people. They already know stuff, and so they don't need to know more things. They just want to know how to do something maybe a bit differently, or try something that I haven't done before, or just actually be given the time and space to spend a bit of time thinking about something with a different person. That's the element for me that mentoring brings.
I think that's a really important point you make, and I've heard it said by others, that opportunity to sit and reflect. It mightn't be that you feel that you're doing something wrong, but that you're just not finding time to stop and think about how you are delivering against your targets or meeting objectives or communicating with others around you, because we're all so busy. But it's that opportunity to think it through and bounce those ideas and thoughts off another person, an independent voice.
Yes, definitely. It's that self-reflective practice, and we tend to be really good at it. Stasha's been just talking about what she does, and delivering projects and things. We're very good at that. We're not great at sort of sitting back and thinking, "Oh, well, how did that go? What did I learn from it?" So I think it gives you that reflective practice.
Yeah, an excuse to stop and think. So when you first introduced mentoring to the staff, how was it received internally? Did you need to promote it or
No,
cajole people?
not at all. People were really keen to get involved. I think we had loads of interest because I think because we have lots of professional people, lots of really well qualified folk who already have they might have a mentor in their very technical area, or they do that CPD, so they're quite used to doing that sort of continued learning. But that they were really keen to have a look at it in a wider practice, in a just more general way. So just had lots of interest from both sides about mentee and mentoring. Yeah,
Sure. And before we get on to the feedback, I suppose afterwards, let me just give the context. I mean, you've put forward a number of people for the TwoCan mentorship. As you say, some as mentees, some as mentors. Were there any outcomes or observations that you made about you training those two groups together that you observed?
Oh, it's interesting you ask, because originally I was not sure how that would work. I thought that might be quite tricky to be trained together. It's like, surely it's a slightly different element. But my observation is it actually works quite well. I think it's really good for both mentee and mentor to have the same mentoring message, but also to find out what the other one would do, and that it's actually fact it's no different really. We stay curious, we ask questions and explore topics. And essentially that is kind of it. So I think to have the same training and to start building those relationships and start thinking of maybe both sides of the same coin is quite helpful. So initially I was like, oh, I'm not sure how that's going to work, but it seemed to.
Yeah. Stasha.
I think being also on the receiving end of that and being in one of the cohorts, I have to call out John, who was doing the training, because he brought out all of the salient, in an authentic way, the things that people needed to bring into the open to understand, and people felt that they could ask those questions. So I think a lot of it actually had to do with John himself and the way he organizes and manages those kind of meetings, those kind of sessions.
Yeah.
Elaine's nodding, so I think she probably would agree with that.
I do. I think he does a fantastic job, and he really helps people develop a passion for mentoring, regardless of what side they're coming from. Yeah.
Great feedback. So we take ahead of the training or alongside the training that gets done initially, participants go through some questionnaires, interview process, if you like, just to understand their motivations and values and the way in which they like to work, in order to build up that profile to match them, mentor and mentee. How important do you think the matching process is, both of you?
Well, I'm going to talk for myself. Right? So I'm sure Elaine will talk about it in more general AHDB sense, but from a being a mentor in a reverse mentoring situation, which is a slightly unusual dynamic when, of course, if you're used to being a mentor and you suddenly become a mentor in a reverse mentoring situation with somebody who's in a more influential or senior role, that is quite a different dynamic. And the reason why I thought the matching process was very good is that you do the questionnaire, you do the interviews, and then Helen sends you have been matched to this person, which she does an introductory email, and she explains why that you've been matched with that, which I thought was a very good process. And why I'd been matched with this person, she said, I matched you for two specific reasons. I'm not giving anything away here, but it says, You care about influencing people who do not report into you. So that was obviously relevant to me. There's a genuine exchange available here around how credibility gets built and communicated across different contexts. And the second point is that she said, I also wanted to share something that matters. You both named integrity as your first value, and you both lead with directness. So I went into that process knowing that somebody had similar values to me, and also they might how I could help them, what would be important to them, in a very professional way of putting it. So I thought that was very well done. I thought that matching process was very good. Elaine, you might probably have more general things to say about it.
Yeah, I think from the matches that I've observed, I think it's a particular strength of the program. It seems to work really well. I don't think we've had anyone who's not got on. And I know Helen always says that it's there's a no blame divorce if people don't go on, but I don't think we've had to use that. I do think it works really well because she does it as and it kind of, there's a scientific background to it, but there's also that, as Stasha was describing, it's about matched on values as well. And we've had some really successful relationships. And the interesting thing is that often after the mentoring program is finished, because it goes for 6 months, people continue to meet, or they continue to keep in contact, which I think is a testament to itself, to that whole process.
Yeah.
And it was key for us. So Stasha there has mentioned about our reverse mentoring program, and the matching process was one of the reasons that I asked TwoCan to administer that program, because the pairings had been so successful in the general mentoring program, and it was really key for me that the reverse mentoring program worked very well.
Yeah.
So I think it works on lots of different levels, and it is absolutely key for the whole program. Really, it runs on the relationships.
Yeah, I think you're both entirely right. In fact, my mentoring finished a couple of months ago, but I'm still in touch. And in fact, I just messaged her earlier this morning that she was asking if I was at the Yorkshire show tomorrow. So I'm going to miss her yet again. I still haven't met her in person because we're at opposite ends of the country.
Wow.
But yeah, the bond is there, and the matching exercise was straightforward, but based on really good principles of understanding and that will outlast the mentoring program. So after the process then, Elaine, what kind of feedback did you get from participants?
So I've had some really good feedback. I think people have said that it's been a really good experience, and say they've kept in touch with their mentee or mentor. So it's helped people on their specific things that they wanted to find out. And it's also helped people just develop their skills and their people skills, really. So I think on the whole, the feedback has been great. I mean, it's early days for some of our programs. So the reverse mentoring, we're only a little way through, so it's a bit early to tell just yet. But in terms of so things like sort of helping with people's confidence and sort of self-esteem and exploring that imposter syndrome, those have been great topics for mentoring, because it does allow people to just to explore things, and the routes to some of those issues will be different for everybody. So their topic might be very similar, but where it comes from will be very different. So I think the feedback from that has been really, really good, because it's so difficult to say to somebody, oh well, self-esteem, put you on a training course, tick, that'll be done and you'll be brilliant. Everything will be sorted. It just lends itself really well to those types of topics. But we've had people do sort of technical topics as well. And also from the other side of things, from the mentor side, we've had one of our mentors said that the hour that he spends with his mentees, one of the most fulfilling hour that he spends all month, so that's it's really great from that side, isn't it? So from developing your people skills and your listening skills from a mentor side is really, really good. So feedback's been really positive, and it's almost been sort of word of mouth as this is a great thing to be involved in.
Excellent. I was going to come back on the mentoring piece. So and if I can ask you, Stasha, what do you think a mentor gains from the process?
Well, you're building your network, which is what we mentioned before, because you keep in touch with some of these people afterwards. You're building skills and abilities in a mentoring role all the time because you're dealing with people. So I think that's quite important. It's allowed me to push myself out of my comfort zone. So I do reverse mentoring in AHDB. I do mentoring of women in the meat industry through Meat Business Women. And I'm currently volunteering through a charity which is aligned to the King's Trust with a sixth former sixth form student in an inner city Birmingham school, which is very challenging, apart from anything, I haven't been in a school for decades. So that in itself is quite scary for me. So it does make you push yourself out of your comfort zone because you, as a mentor, you can see what benefits that the mentees get. It's wonderful to see mentees actually reaching their goals and aspirations through their own efforts, assisted by me making suggestions or holding up a mirror to them or whatever. And I think it's genuine faith in being a mentor as a discipline. It's a very, very good discipline to get into throughout your career, either being a mentor or a mentee. I mean, I have literally decades to share, so it fits me better to be a mentor than it does a mentee. But I'm looking back over my career, I had informal mentors. I didn't know that's what they were at the time, but that's what they were. So having it as a slightly more formal process means I think you can take advantage of it better. My volunteering I've already mentioned, and I think making a difference, widening your own perspective. You know, I love supporting a wider community in such a kind of constructive way. It's about the mentee. That's what's a good discipline also for me, is it's not about me. It's about the other it's about the other person. It's their time. And you can see, I've just started mentoring somebody literally last week. And it was almost like the light suddenly dawned on this girl's face where she thought, we're talking about me. This is my time. I can explore in this safe space. And that is the thing. You are being authentic in a trusted space. And I think that's why people often keep in touch with their mentees afterwards, because or the other way around, because you build a trusting and you build some kind of bond there. I mean, I'm not saying that it works out every single time. Sometimes, you know, you're talking to somebody and you don't feel you've got a connection. And I think you have to be realistic about that. But yeah, I think you can gain a lot from being a mentor. Personally, I have.
Yeah, I love that. It's terrific. So following on from that, Elaine, you probably will have looked at how to construct a mentoring program and considered initially how you were going to do that from within, I imagine. How did when you looked at TwoCan, how did that differ as a program from other mentoring initiatives?
I think for me it's two things. So one is the bit about with TwoCan, it's still in the farming or food producing industry. So I just think that's really helpful. So it's, you know, I don't need mentors particularly maybe to be an expert in the field, forgive the pun, that the other person might be in, but to have an appreciation and background and a sort of a similar way of thinking is often helpful. There's lots in common. So that was a big plus for me. And the other thing was, when we originally looked at it, sort of doing internal mentoring, it's kind of like we're a bit too small for that. So everybody kind of knows each other. And I just wanted it to be a little bit bigger and a little bit wider, but still retain that the similar background and the farming agricultural background. So those were the two sort of big pluses for me in terms of going to TwoCan, because of that. Yeah, that understanding, really.
Excellent. Okay, so Stasha, back to you. What advice would you give someone else from a learning and development function, for example, who's looking to set up a mentoring program? What would you say to them?
Right. Well, I think Elaine really hit the nail on the head there. I think what's really good about QTAN, and you need to look and see what sector you're in. I think you need to understand how to broaden that out, because if you are a smaller organization, you need a wider pool of mentors and mentees. I would say, I personally think it's really important that whether you are a mentee or a mentor, you need to be matched with somebody you don't know, because I don't think it can work if you actually know that person. You go into that relationship with a preconceived idea. So I think that's very important when you're talking about the program. I think participation is key. So Elaine's been pushing against an open door introducing this program, but I suspect there might be other organizations where they need to be, it needs to be introduced and it needs to be sold in, if you like, talking about the benefits of it, maybe giving some examples about participation, and canvassing opinion of interest to participate. I think particularly if there are people who are reticent, depending on the culture of the organization, I think that's important. And I think the training is vital. Again, we've touched on that, where there was, in this case, you chose to do a mentee-mentor trial in the cohort, and it was only as good as John Borland actually managing that whole process, so that people came out of it having all their questions answered. They knew the difference between one and another. I don't know if there are any people who went into that program to start with thinking, oh, I might be a mentor, but actually I ended up being a mentee, and they changed their mind, because it needs to be very clearly explained to people, because not everybody, they like the idea of it, but they may not understand exactly what it is. So I think that's why I think it's the communication about it has to be clear, and it has to be quite honest, and it can't be woolly, because I think people otherwise they've got their own perceived idea of what a mentor or a mentee is, and it might not be what the program has to offer. I think the other thing that's important is to encourage people to think holistically about it. And what I mean by that is there are mentors and there are mentees everywhere around you within the world that you work. So if you are in a situation whereby, I don't know, you're struggling with some kind of work thing, but it's to do with a work-life balance, or it might be something else. It could be that actually one of your passions, I'm just giving this as an example, passions outside work happens to be netball or something like that. So it's another activity. Right. The work situation from a mentor-menteeing situation can probably help a lot, but you might want to have a separate mentor in the coaching or the whatever it is world of netball. Or it might be that you feel as though you're a woman, you have a glass ceiling that you can't, and it's all these things, these subtle things that you're looking for as a mentor, doesn't mean to say that you have to keep within the confines of an agricultural world or whatever it might be. It might be some mental health at work, or it might be something to do with a practical skill or learning French better, or whatever that looks like. And I think, even if you're explaining to them or trying to get them to have a look at, dare I say, AI, and they're looking up the difference between going from school into university, and how that difference from going straight into the workplace, because that would be very different, and how that is different to being at school. And they are quite different. And it doesn't mean to say that I'm an expert in doing that, but I think people need to know that you're not just going to be talked about a little thing. It's opening your world. It's opening your world into a different space, whatever that looks like.
Lovely. Yeah. Lovely. Okay. Final question from me then, if I can ask you, Elaine, what are AHDB's plans regarding TwoCan Mentoring then going forward?
Well, we're definitely wanting to continue. So we've already put some people forward for the October training. So that should give us another 6 months of a program. I think it'd be really good to see people who've been mentees to become mentors. That would be, that would be a great thing to see if people have really valued the process to want to continue. We're halfway through our reverse mentoring, which has been a bit different for us. So that's been very much sort of internal but administered by TwoCan, and that's been quite a pilot, quite an experiment for us. And I think it'll be really interesting as we get further along to see how that's gone on, and whether people have valued it, and whether we need to continue it. So I think, yeah, there'll be a little bit of work around the reverse mentoring. And I think it's just about embedding the skills. As Stasha said there, it is about opening people's worlds with possibilities of doing things differently. So if we can embed some of this mentoring skills into everything that we do, I think that would be fantastic. So, so that people do give that time to that reflective practice. They do ask some curious questions of their colleagues and really listen to the answers, and then, ask some further really good questions to hold up that mirror to people. If we can embed that into our management, sort of managing style, then that would be really, really good. So I think it's
shift.
Yeah, absolutely. It's continuing it, I think, really.
Yeah. Superb. Thank you. Anything else you want to add, ladies?
Oh, anything you want to add? I just think it's I think it's been really good for us. As Stasha said there, it is about people have been very keen and enthusiastic. It's not been a big push for us, really. People have been really happy to join in and do something a little bit different, which has been fantastic. It'll be really interesting to see where they go with that. That'll be the great thing.
Super. Okay, well, thank you so much, both of you, for your time this afternoon. Really appreciate it. And I know Helen sent her thanks. So look forward to meeting you, I hope, in the future. And wish you a good rest of the week.
Okay, well, thanks, Bev. Thank you very much. Thanks so much, Stasha, for doing that as well.
Oh, no problem. Bye.
Thank you both.
Bye. Bye-bye.
My huge thanks to Elaine and Stasha for finding time in their busy diaries to talk with me. If you'd like to find out more about how mentoring could impact your career or business, why not take the time to check out TwoCan Mentoring today? You can find all the details on their website, twocanmentor.co.uk. That's TWOCAN Mentor, all one word. Thanks for listening today. As always, if you've enjoyed the episode, why not leave a comment or share it with a friend? Special thanks to Helen Wyman and the TwoCan team for working with me on the podcast. Hit subscribe or follow for more episodes on mentoring, as well as my usual ramblings. But for now, if it is past your bedtime, well, perhaps it's time to turn in. Until next time.